had the opportunity to shoot some weapons, hop in some helos, and go out and help a farmer who needs to do some culling because of some wild hogs in his farm. And so,
I mean, full disclosure, I did Google culling. I was like, culling? I think you mean killing the hogs because of a surplus.
I mean, I was born in the 60s and raised in the 70s. This gray beard is real. And what consider it this way. Now, I've done 11 combat deployments, so I've been to the hard places.
Oh, hey, everybody. Welcome to Uncivil Live. I'm Dicey.
I'm Nate. Hey, girl. Hey, how you doing?
I feel like I haven't talked to you in, 10 hours or something.
I know, right? 10 hours too long, my sister. How you doing? You looking good, sis?
Thanks. You know, I got up this morning. So for the last probably 3 years, I've been trying to get up at 5 o'clock to go work out. And this is the first day I actually did it. And I'm so proud of myself. I even recorded my entire morning because I'm joining the 5 a.m. club. I made up my mind. All the successful people whose books I've been reading, and they all get up at 5 a.m. And it's because you can get like literally a 3 or 4 hour
head start on the world,
on the day and on everything. And just, I mean, it's like, I feel so accomplished already. Now we're recording this and I've worked out before noon and I already ate good. And it's, that's it. It's just the little things, just getting my shit together. And
I mean, I get it. Like, I did that 4 a.m. club for years.
Yeah.
And then switched it. And then sometimes I go back. It's like, I can't do late night and early mornings. That's my thing.
You're good at getting up. You will get up, Nate. Like you get up. That's you ain't never had a problem with that. I'm the night owl for sure of us.
But I can't do both. Like if I'm out late night, the few times I'm doing stand up, like I went to this really cool real estate event yesterday. Girl, it was at one of those virtual race car things.
Oh,
I've never done that, and I was like, oh my god, this is so hard because they had like the hydraulics in the seats and all this kind of stuff. And of course I crashed I was like, oh, this is fun to people. This is like, I was like, I mean, it was fun because I was trying to figure it out, but we all had like the little headsets on and all the ladies could hear each other, like talking. We was in there, just talking ish to each other. And it was fun. It was a different experience. Like I would have never done that. I mean, just because I wouldn't think, oh, let me go virtual race car driving. But it like one girl, she was out after one lap. She was like, let me go. I'm about to go drink.
Y'all have the headset on?
Yeah, we had headsets on.
Girl, that shit makes me throw up.
Exactly. I felt nauseated. I felt so, we didn't have like 3D glasses or anything, but the seats had the hydraulics and stuff in there. We had headphones on where we could race. We were all racing each other. It was about 8 of us racing each other and the mics on. So we was all talking noise in there. And I was just like, it was super fun because I had never done anything like that before. I mean, like go-karts. But I was like, oh, this is a different game when you could feel the hydraulics. But it was super, super fun. So that was cool. A lot of good things, especially after the last couple of weeks or the last month. So it's been some fun things going on over here. So I'm happy about that.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We have a guest today, first of all, y'all. So we're super excited to kind of cut our little banter short at the beginning of our show to have this man on. I honestly can't believe he likes to hang out with us, some heathens like us. Or maybe I'm just talking about like myself. You know what I mean? You not as heathenish, or at least you don't bring yours to the forefront like I do. You try to.
What?
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
Yeah.
Right,
And people be like, I'm taking you with the shits. I'm like,
you with the shit.
I've lived.
But I'm gonna go ahead and bring him to the stage, and then I'm gonna tell y'all who he is. All right, so coming to the stage right now, give it up for our very good friend of the show, Mr. Raymond Kemp. Woo! I just want to introduce you, give you the proper introduction that you deserve. This man right here, he is the first Black Fleet Master Chief appointed by President Biden himself. He served over 30 years in the Navy, oversaw 56,000 troops. He has such an interesting perspective on this. We're so lucky to even be able to talk to somebody like him and have him bring this perspective to what we're talking about today, to the war. That's an inside joke between us, by the way, from the pre meetup. Give it up for Mr. Raymond Kemp, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, what's going on with you? You have anything new going on? You've been doing anything fun lately?
Well, first of all, I can't fool with y'all. 5 o'clock in the morning, hot yoga. Excuse me. Virtual racing. When a brother get an invitation, I can drive. So you guys have got it going on. I did do something really interesting this weekend. I had the opportunity to connect with this group called Hogs Helicopters for Heroes, and fantastic nonprofit organization that is seeking to build networks and do fun stuff. And so they brought about 50 veterans out, had the opportunity to shoot some weapons, hop in some helos, and go out and help a farmer who needs to do some culling because of some wild hogs in his farm. And so when I say that it was a mix between, I can't remember what the name of that movie was, but one of them crazy old war movies from the 70s. You know, you picture guys hanging out of helicopters with weapons. That was us. Absolutely crazy, but fun and safe.
So did y'all capture any hogs or kill any hogs or?
My helo had 10 kills.
Oh, and what do you do? What do you do with a wild ass hog?
No, ma'am. No. My job was there to shoot and have a good time.
Then what did they do with it?
What they do with them hogs? That's got
on some bacon or something. Do people eat wild hog or no?
Let me tell you what. There was an amazing, and I don't know where the meat came from, but there was some. I'm in Texas, the great nation of Texas, and there's amazing barbecue here, and there were copious amounts of barbecue and good music and amazing networking, cool speakers, and so it was a good time. But yeah, I have no idea what they did with them hogs. Not my business.
Okay. Yeah, because
I love that they found like there was a need for something like the culling of the hogs, which I mean, full disclosure, I did Google culling. I was like, culling? I think you mean killing the hogs because of a surplus, but I ain't sure. So let me just look it up. Y'all ain't no shame in looking up words, but y'all found a cool reason, made it, it's a nonprofit. Like, that's just cool.
Right. It's all sorts of benefits that go in there. And then, the familiarity for veterans to get together and have some fun and focus on good things and do something cool, make a lot of noise.
So tell us a little bit before we get started and talking about all this heavy stuff. What is Kemp Solutions and what does your company do?
So the vision of Kemp Solutions is to change the world. Easy task, easy vision. But we want to change the world from the workplace outward. And so what that means is that we look for opportunities to partner with companies who are looking to stabilize the leadership in their organization. And we go in and through speaking, training, and coaching, we have an impact on hearts and minds and the leader's ability to communicate with their people. Because the thing is that when people get treated with dignity and respect in the workplace, they don't just stay selfish with that. They take that home and they treat their families with dignity and respect. And then from there, they go into the community treating people with dignity and respect. And that's how we change the world. Or at least that's our strategy.
I love that because it's like people usually spend more time at work than they do with their family. So you would think it's the reverse, but so if you having a bad time at work and that's where you're spending the most time at, and you bring that home to the family and then to the rest of the world, that's not cool. Like, I love that. I got some companies that you should visit, but we'll talk about that.
I appreciate that. But the interesting thing, just super quickly, is that oftentimes, I was born in the 60s and raised in the 70s. This gray beard is real. And what it was often said was, don't talk about politics, don't talk about in the workplace. And to me, what better place to talk about it so you can flesh out those ideas and then go have a real impact on the community. And this time of year, that's important.
On to the serious topics and probably this is I've been talking to a bunch of different people the last couple of days. I don't know why everybody's just checking in with me these last couple of days. It's just such a heavy energy over the world. And I'm actually kind of scared this time. I feel like America has always been like this superpower that I'm so protected, like at least maybe not like racially or as a woman, but just at least I know that this shit ain't gonna get blown up. I feel like we're just this bubble and no missiles can get to us. But I just don't know that. I feel like they're gonna find that little spot. Somebody's gonna find a little spot to our vulnerable spot.
But if I could just jump in there just before we go too far and encourage you to consider it this way. Now, I've done 11 combat deployments, so I've been to the hard places. I have visited the 9/11 and the Pentagon. I know people who were in both places. What I'm super duper just concerned that Americans don't do enough of is stay aware of what's happening in the world, but not concerned by it. It's one thing to be aware that there are challenges and wars being fought on continents beyond ours, but to be concerned about it, I think, is energy wasted. We pay people millions and billions of dollars, organizations millions and billions of dollars. You talk about the Department of War, and we've got people sitting around thinking of ways to defend us, as well as thinking of ways to subdue the enemy. And so there's no need for us to bring on that burden as to how do we defend and how do we offend. I think it is wise time spent being aware of what's happening, but not being burdened with the concern.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for that perspective, because I would say, like, I like Dicey, I've always felt like we can't get touched until 9/11. 9/11 was like, oh, you know what? Everybody can get touched at any time. And I didn't have the words for it at that time, but then that's when I really started to like appreciate in a deeper sense of being an American, that we don't get touched. We gonna figure it out. And like, even though I don't understand, who decides wars, all of those things, I appreciate it. Like, over here, we're usually untouchable.
Right. And we should still stand with that posture. Because trust me when I say there's a lot of folks who are trying to touch us, but our defense mechanisms and our resources are preventing that from happening. So we should still be 10 feet tall and bulletproof when we walk around thinking about the flag under which we walk.
And we all Texans.
Yeah.
Ain't never scared.
Ain't never scared. You're right. That's a true fact.
Yeah.
So you've spent decades in the Navy. When you watch this situation unfold, what are things civilians misunderstand most about how wars like this actually start, or if this is a war? You could kind of explain.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's Congress that declares war. So though media and folks with microphones placed in their face might say, we're at war. Oh my God, we're at war. No. When there's a declaration of war, our behavior in the combat zone is different. There are occasions where, like now, there have been strikes that have been put in place, and I'm more of a populist, maybe a right-leaning populist, because I spent so much time as very apolitical based on the law that I was under wearing the uniform. But one thing that I think the civilians, or those of us now who are not in the uniform in the combat zone, should be aware of is that there are a series of laws and regulations that must be followed in war, and those haven't been met yet. One being, I just mentioned earlier, that Congress are the ones who declare that we are at war, not a person, not even a situation. When we get attacked, for example, by a known enemy, as in World War II, when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, Congress goes into action. We declare war. We know we're going up and against the enemy. Many people would say that there's proxy wars that we'll be fighting and skirmishes and things to that effect, and that's a true fact. One thing that I would just elevate for the listeners and those who are watching the show is that there are layers on top of layers of, how can I say, resources that are in place to defend the continental U.S. Our enemies are getting more and more creative when it comes down to mechanisms and ways to attack us, but a physical attack is very unlikely. What is oftentimes happening, there's this war that's taking up a lot of energy on the news, but how are we doing with our passwords on our bank accounts? How are we doing with regard to accessing? Right.
I've heard that that's going to be the new war. Like they're going to come at us, like, again, that's the big thing with these apps. What country controls the apps? Because if you have the app on your phone, now they have access to all of your information of all of the Americans and how you move, your location, where you're banking, how you're banking. And I've also heard that, medically, like it might be some type of disease. So like they're going to get us in a different kind of way, not through physical exertion. Ooh.
Sure. I mean, even when we look at the things that are going on now, because combat isn't always, warrior to warrior, ship to shore, that type of thing. It's not always that. Sometimes it is this drone warfare that they've got, and the concern of them attacking a desalinization plant. Let's just say in Riyadh or somewhere over there. Riyadh, I think, is maybe 8 to 10 million people, but they'd be out of water in 10 days if they hit their desalinization plant. So, and that is something that can be done in a soft way as well, not just through a drone strike. It could also be through technology. And so, what I would encourage all of us to do, one is to, again, remain aware, sensitive, perhaps, head on a swivel is what we would say when it comes down to what are we doing electronically so that we don't individually become a part of something greater when it comes to, let's say, a cyber attack.
So if it's just because it's not called a war, but the same kind of things are happening, like, I mean, 6 people have already been killed, 6
Sure.
of our 6 soldiers. So, I mean, I'm sure and not to argue semantics or like, you definitely know what you're talking about, but I guess my frustration is if Congress if everything has to go through Congress, how is this happening? How have 100 plus people, Iranians, mostly kids, ended up dead, and 6 of our service members ended up dead? And
but it's not war.
Stopping but it's not war. But what's stopping? Where do the checks and balances come into play? And
right.
when is it? What's going to be? When is it going to go too far? What actually has to happen for this to be like, okay, the president absolutely has nothing to do with this anymore? I know he's on a need to know basis as well, right? He doesn't know. Is that correct?
He doesn't know the intimate details per se of the tactics that we're using. So there's 3 levels of war. It's strategy, operations, and then tactics. Tactics is the trigger pulling and the things that we see on the news. The real difference, and great point, is semantics. We're fighting. People are dying. We're blowing stuff up, and they are attempting to do the same to us. In most people's minds, war. My language would be it's a combat environment. The fact of the matter is that there's some financial resource differences when it comes down to the declaration of war, the amount of money that is spent, and those types of things that have nothing to directly in this moment to do with the combat operations. And so, to your point, it is semantics. We are fighting, and there are casualties being taken regrettably.
Okay, my question, Mr. Kemp. Okay, so Iran, Israel, just everything over there. Why is the U.S. Why are we so invested? Now, from my understanding and from my old thought is that, like what I finally learned in college. Oh, anytime the U.S. is involved in something, because I didn't know it but I thought we were just, we were helping the world be a better place, and helping everyone that's getting done wrong, because that's not the right thing to do. But in college, it was like, oh no, wait a minute, baby girl. If the U.S. is involved, we're getting something out of it. There's something that's beneficial to our economy, and I'm like, oh, whoa, like, it ripped the first layer of the reality of what real life is going on for the rest of the world that we just never really had to worry about. We had the privilege of not knowing. So in this case, like, why are we involved, the U.S., in what's going on between Iran and Iraq, and Israel, excuse me, right?
What I will say, though, is that you're right. The relationship is really Israel and Iran that has beef, if I may, for the community, and not necessarily directly us. However, indirectly, we are and have been involved over in the what we call the Middle East, because of oil and because of the money resources that we get, and whether it be money that is poured into the the oil, the money that we pour into oil over there that gets repurposed into some measure of visitation, then that's likely the most likely reason that we're having problems that we're involved, I should say, with that. Also, America has really been strong and standing firm on treaties and agreements that we have made years and years and years ago. So from NATO to the number of agreements that we've had with Israel. One thing that is questionable, though, is if Iran is adhering to the global nuclear policy, why isn't Israel? Why don't we know exactly how many nuclear weapons Israel has compared to what we know about Iran? And so there are some questionable things that I think are reasonable for folks to lift up that magnifying glass and say, hold on now.
Yeah, I see that. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. But here's the thing. From my perspective, when I spend time thinking on something, there's a value add to it. I don't know if there is a direct value add to exposing all of the wrong and so forth that Israel is doing if we're not going to change our position and our policy. And if I could just kind of take a peek over at the political scene that we're in right now, because it's time to vote and our folks have just voted, we should be considering that when it comes down to picking who we're going to have representing us in Congress, who are the ones who define whether or not we're at war or not, when we are at war, and certainly as well as the president, who is the key person when it comes down to developing relationships face to face anyway outside of the United States. Great point, though.
So people would argue that America gets involved in too many wars, and others would say that the global leadership requires that of the United States. We're, as the superpower. So from a military standpoint, where do you fall in that? Or does that even make sense? Does that question make sense?
Well, I think there is a measure. I was born in the great nation of Texas, raised in Oklahoma, and I was taught that there is a measure of accountability that goes with leadership. In fact, I think the way it was taught to me was that to whom much is given, much is required. And so because we have the knowledge, awareness, and the wherewithal to do something about it when someone is being mistreated, then there's a moral decision that needs to be made. Though some might challenge the morality of our nation, at this particular time, the true fact is that is one of the reasons that we have been so heavily involved across multiple continents and skirmishes that are happening around the world.
But in this instance, you're saying that we don't even know how many missiles Israel could have. So if that's the case, then,
and I'm saying that I sure don't know, and I have heard others.
So then why do we feel we have to go help somebody like Israel who can for sure defend themselves? And on top of, and to add to that, who made the call? Because nobody's taking responsibility for these 100 people that are, and mostly children that are dead in Iran. Pete Hegseth has yesterday, was arguing with everybody who was yelling at him on CNN. He's arguing and he's like, oh, well, we're investigating. Like, why do we have to be involved in somebody else's war when they can clearly defend themselves?
Well, first and foremost, when I say we don't know how many missiles that Israel has, I'm talking about nuclear weapons. And so we don't want anybody firing nuclear weapons anywhere on the earth, because the impact, just based on not just global warming, but the jet stream can have extensive impacts. And so that's the type of weaponry that I'm talking about. Secondly, I can't say for sure. I haven't read yet what it was that caused Israel to begin this fight. And when it comes down to I think it was a report that there was a children's school, a girls' school specifically, that had gotten hit. And when it comes down to the forensics, it's a matter of, okay, well, let's look at our resources and determine, whose weapon it was that, struck the school and so forth. And there's perhaps certainly some value in that, because if very much the same as in the past in the Middle East, it was Iran who struck the school to claim that Israel and America is doing this damage. That's a strategy that has been used in the past. And so we've got to be very intentional and clear on who made the strike. Also, very much the same as with the hogs this weekend when I went shooting. That part of the safety brief was, hey, if you're turning, the propeller is going to do this, so make sure you don't shoot the propeller. If you're maneuvering, there's a skid beneath you. Make sure if you're tracking a hog that you don't hit that. In larger warfare, large scale warfare, like we're talking, combat, like what we're talking about, that can still happen. You can a missile can get misdirected, or it could get jammed and then fall and have an impact like that. And so I support the Secretary of War when it comes down to scrutinizing and researching whose weapon it was, how did it happen, and I think that we as Americans want to know that.
And that takes time, I'm assuming. Like, it's not always something, because like more to be discovered, interviews to have, like interviewing people that were there. Like you said, it could have been an accident and we just don't know. And there could be a cover up. And it's just like, it's not first 48. It might take more time to figure out exactly what really happened.
Correct. Yeah, we definitely can't go to the instant replay to determine whether or not LeBron James hit a 3 or a 2. It's not like that. We definitely have to dig deep because what we want, and I truly want this, is that the information to be reliable, because there has been a falling when it comes down to trusting the news. And so I would hope that the government, particularly the Department of War, begins to rebuild that trustworthy nature that we enjoyed for the many decades that I served.
Well, you just made me feel a lot better about, because Pete Hegseth just comes across as this asshole. Then I can't get past all these racist tattoos he has, on him, and he's just so dismissive, and doesn't have any experience. But anyway, whatever.
And I want to say this, and I had the opportunity to say it when we were in studio together previously, is that was Daryl Cottle. Daryl Cottle has been selected as the most senior person in uniform for the United States Navy. We call him the CNO, which is Chief. CNO. Well, anyway, he is the Navy's CNO. I don't know how that acronym, that nickname is.
I'm like Chief Naval Officer, Chief Negro, Chief. I was like, my brain was like, act right. Like me and Dicey were like, this is too easy. Like,
I could add something to that too. No, he's the chief of naval operations. My gosh. So let me get my life right and start that over. So thankfully, Daryl Cottle has been selected as the chief of naval operations. I know Daryl Cottle. He and I served together in Italy. I know that he is fit to fight and ready to go and he has the experience to make wise decisions. I don't know his peers in the other services, but I can only imagine if they had the wisdom to select him, they applied that same mechanism and wisdom across the board. And so when the Army gets involved, the Air Force gets involved, I'm going to apply that same measure of trust to the folks that they have put in those positions and feel very confident about the people who are making the decisions when it comes down to this combat environment. And though, much like you, Hegseth he rubs me the wrong way in a lot of ways. Somehow or another, he's got at least one of the folks that are head of a department, and he's chosen the exact right person for that job. So here we are.
Is he more of Pete Hegseth? Like, is he more of a figurehead being the Secretary of War, or is he calling the shots too? Because I just know whatever I saw him talking about, we're gonna have more weapons, there's gonna be more battles, there's gonna be more this. I was like, you over here bragging like wait, like you just really are making everybody's nerves, not everybody's nerves bad, but a lot of people's nerves bad. So
And
or is he calling these shots?
He's a figurehead to some degree when it comes down to the actions that we see, but when it comes down to what we're spending money towards, he's very much, Secretary of War, he's very much involved in that and is the decision maker and check writer. So when he says, hey, there's going to be more weapons, we're going to be prepared for these and those things, that's real. And I think, again, politically speaking, I think that may be a tipping of hand as to what the president who appointed him into that position might be seeking to do.
So you've served your entire adult career pretty much protecting this country. When you watch another generation of young service members potentially heading to war, what emotions come up for you?
First of all, I would say that those of us who have seen the audacity of war most want peace. Those of us who have seen the audacity of war most want peace, and so it creates a measure of emotion for me when I think that there are young people who are getting ready to go into that very same environment, potentially, or a very similar environment that I have been when it comes down to fighting and defending our great nation. I will say this, though. I am extremely confident in the youth of today because I have seen what happens when you give them the proper tools, parts, and material. You help them understand what it is that they're doing and why that is important to the overall security of this world. Then they will run through a troop and jump over a wall. I have watched it happen. There are inbound missiles coming into one of our ships that was in the Red Sea. And those young people shot down every what we call vampire, every missile that was headed toward them, shot down every one of them. And that's what we want. What we want are young people who are competent and who have a measure of confidence that they can provide feedback to make our ability to fight and defend even better. And I'm extremely confident that we have that.
Wow.
I maybe y'all can look this up afterwards or whatever, but yesterday I wish I had the footage. There was a Marine who got put out. Did you see this? The Marine that got put out of a I don't some sort of meeting or town hall or something like that. He got put out. He in uniform. They broke his arm as well. His arm got broken. And he was just so against going to war right now. Do you think that's the attitude of a lot of soldiers that this is something that I mean, I can't speak for soldiers, but I mean, I would assume nobody really wants to go to war, but especially under circumstances where Congress hasn't even declared it. What do you, the feeling of the servicemen? How do you?
Well, again, it's having the opportunity to serve the years that I did, and sometimes we were at war, sometimes we were not, but oftentimes there was combat. I would say that there's someone who knows that the mission of their organization, whether it be Marines or Navy or Air Force, Army, Space Force, the Coast Guard, then they realize that when they signed up, there's a chance that we're going to war. One of the things that creates a measure of leadership stability in the military is knowing who makes what decisions and knowing where you are in the food chain of that decision making. What I will admit is that I have seen over a number of years the straying from the law of military members being apolitical. I served under 6 presidents, various different flavors, and we used to say, I got 2 words for the president, and those 2 words are Roger that. Who cares whether it's a Democrat or a Republican? Who cares whether it's a woman, what their ethnicity is? Roger that is all I got.
Well, this administration cares.
The administration is definitely creating some space for sure. Right. And the thing though is that I know that for sure that, again, through various different conflicts during my time in service, there was always somebody who was mad or disagreed and thought that they knew something more politically responsible to do rather than what the United States was doing. What has happened from my perspective is that because not just social media, but because everyone is now a reporter with a cell phone and a camera on it, and they can instantly record things that are happening, is that we know more of those folks who are complaining or disagree with what the administration is doing. And so it doesn't surprise me. I'm sorely disappointed that has had to happen, where a Marine has been snatched out of any place in uniform and injured. However, I'm not surprised by it. Disappointed, but not surprised.
I actually found the footage. I have the information and actually found footage. If you want to share my screen, so this is a former Marine Sergeant, Brian McGinnis. suffered a broken arm. This happened yesterday. He was forcibly removed by Capitol Police from a Senate Armed Services Subcommittee hearing. And this is what happened after they said that he was shouting in uniform, "No one wants to fight for Israel."
Please stand up as a Marine. Stand up for America. No one wants to fight for Israel.
Oh my God. Why are you here? Why are you getting arrested?
Free Palestine. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, Palestine will be free.
Oh my God. They broke his arm. Oh man.
Please stand up as a Marine.
Wow. So that's that. And just to add into that, the aftermath, it's showing that now Sergeant Brian McGinnis faces 3 counts of assaulting a police officer and 3 counts of resisting arrest and obstructing. Yes.
I'll tell you, it's sad. However, I mean, there's a lot of rules that were broken there, a lot of laws that were broken there, and even though he may have been right in his from his perspective anyway, on not wanting to fight and all the things that he was shouting in the video, it doesn't excuse the behavior. And I think it escalated. Perhaps it showed the point of escalation. So I don't know what it started at, but disappointing. However, not surprising. And again, we have voices now that we just didn't have in the past.
And I think that's the thing as civilians, and just being in the media and being a person who was in the media for years, still is to an extent. And just, I was like, I can't let it go for whatever reason, because I'm a real big proponent of the truth. And when we do have, quote unquote, the truth will be televised, like you just said, we saw the point of escalation. We truly don't know everything that happened beforehand. And no matter how emotionally convicted or morally convicted we feel about anything, quote unquote, there are rules, even though everybody doesn't always have to follow all of the rules, and all the consequences are different depending on the situation. I understand the frustration from civilians. I understand, like you said, we do have more people recording. I love that empowerment, because I used to just trust the media and the government, and I did just ignorantly. Ignorant is bliss. I understand why people say that, but I remember I'm just trying to tie this into how Hollywood also has played a part. I'll never forget the movie Enemy of the State, and I remember when that movie came out with Will Smith. I can't think of the other gentleman in there. Yes. My dad was like, Nete, if they're doing this in the movie, that they've already had this for 10, 20 years. And I would be like, oh, Dad, you're so paranoid. He's a Nigerian immigrant, been through the Biafra War, lost all his brothers, his siblings in the Biafra War in Nigeria. Like, just, the wisdom of our elders that I clearly discounted, because I'm like, we live in America. And he's just like, you don't know. And then watching Scandal years later, Shonda Rhimes, literally seeing that and like just showing how what you said earlier about how when you were, culling the hogs, is that it? I was like hog hunting, and then we're like, if the propellers go one way and you shoot, it can hit the propeller, and it could be causing our own fault. But in Scandal, seeing how this fictitious presidential, this world, but how sometimes it was the government's fault and they needed to tell a different story so that we can make sure that our citizens are at peace, or just all of the different things that happen. Sometimes eliminate the threat or whatever. I'm not using any of the words right, but it just added so many layers to wait a minute, nobody knows what's really happening about anything.
Yeah.
And that is scary. So I don't know how we're going to be able to trust the media.
But your question to Mr. Raymond is, because I want to know this too, is that shit really true? Is it by the time it makes it to the movies, or is that classified, Mr. Raymond? By the time they got the Men in Black clicker that could erase your whole memory?
Yes. And how
I
they can
love
get
it.
you in line with medicine. They can, you know what I mean? Like these quote unquote experiments and all the things they do. Like you're like you acting up and you telling too much information. We're gonna have you train with this person, and next thing you know, this person is crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories out there that, again, have the spaghetti spilling off of my plate. I will say, and I when I saw that movie Enemy of the State, I called my supervisor. I was like, "Oh my God, what are they doing? Showing this thing and that thing." And so I will say that I have seen art imitating life in ways that surprise me. And that's probably all I'm going to say about that. I will also add, though.
Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for keeping us safe. We don't
I
want no trouble. Don't eliminate us because we didn't ask the question.
I don't want no trouble, but I mean, I'm built for trouble, but I don't want no, I don't want no trouble.
Okay.
One thing that is dangerous, though, is the erosion of trust. And what happens if we just look back in history, there have been occasions where that trust and instability has been woven in by another country, let's just say Russia, and it has destabilized a society. And some of those countries from the former USSR, for example, are still trying to recover their lives after so many years of being separated from them. And so one thing that's extremely important to me for America, because we are a superpower when it comes down to our military, we're a superpower when it comes down to technology and financial resources. I'm concerned about our society, eroding because of lack of trust that I've seen in other countries. And what
might that look like?
When nobody believes the news, when people don't have resources that they believe in, and they think that and begin to feel that they're living in a movie, and a rumor comes about, and the next thing you know, similar to COVID, there's no toilet paper that can be found or paper products that can be found in any store from Walmart to Costco to Sam's. So, those type of things happen when there is no trust in society, and specifically with the government, with the news that's being reported. And then rumors can hamstring or cripple a community. And that's concerning.
It's concerning. However, do you believe that? I mean, because I've always I wrote for my high school newspaper. I was on our broadcasting journalism, team from high school. Try to stray away from it. Then went to hip hop radio, but always I'm fascinated with the truth. However, I understand that some truth is best for the civilians not to know. Like, they don't need to know this. Like I'm like, don't tell me anything that's gonna harm me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I don't need to know that, like, for the greater good. But I do believe that journalists, in my opinion, a journalist's job is to find the truth, uncover the truth. I agree with protecting sources if the sources are helping you let the people know the truth. However, we all know that these media companies, even, newspapers, all the things, whoever's at the head, whoever's the editor, whoever's the main executive producer, they get the final say. So in my opinion, there's always been some type of, sway and a lens, and which is why it was important for me to, because I went to a pretty diverse school, and I was like, I'll make sure, I wanted my voice to be represented everywhere I'm at, and like things that I consider. So I don't know if we'll ever really get to a place where people truly trust media when we're now figuring out who owns certain media companies.
But these days with AI, it's so tricky now to determine what's real and what's not. And so, because I've got AI on my cell phone, probably on my watch, then it's that there's not a known good source of truth, and that's concerning. That's concerning to me. And we're in the early stages of this erosion of, if I could maybe be allowed to use that term, the erosion of trust within the United States. We're in the early days of that. But it's going to move quickly, and it seems like it is already. The language of fake news, the language of deep fake, and now access to created from the individual standpoint is going to further amplify the noise of news unless something's done about it.
Well, things are, kind of being done about it. I feel like there's a huge shift. Like I personally enjoy Joanne Reed and Don Lemon more now that they're independent.
Yeah,
I agree. Because I feel like, back in the day, but I also love there's a Houston icon, Dominique Shashka, who was on Channel 2 News here in Houston for decades. And she is, in my opinion, old school journalism where, and she's talked about it because she had joined Dr. Phil's network in Dallas for a while, but then ended up leaving because she's like, yo, you're not supposed to know a journalist's political affiliation. We're supposed to just give you the facts and just be straight down the middle with just the facts and you decide. However, we've seen, especially cable news veer from that. Not so much, in my opinion, network news. I haven't really seen that, but I have not been watching it as much. However, in Houston, there's this young lady named Grizzy Hood News. She has like 1 million followers on Facebook. And like she was breaking so many local stories here in Houston. Now, NBC has partnered with her for strategic content because as Dicey was saying, it's like she's there with the people, real-time street level reporting with crime updates. So, the more information, I see the pros and cons to everything. And I just see the shift to, in my opinion, which is another reason why I was so glad, Dicey, that you made Uncivilized, that we got to approach information, news, and conversation in a more authentic way that is real and that is raw. Because when I'm seeing it going through major networks, a lot of time I'm not really trusting that, because I know that I went through and I was just doing hip hop radio. And I can see with certain interviews and things where it's like, this is the clip. But now that you like you said, the point of escalation, I would share the entire interview where I might have given an artist a couple of ways out of what they just said. Because I understand what this is going to do,
Right,
and you're standing 10 toes down. But when I send out that entire, interview, nobody's going back. Nobody's going back to report the entire thing.
Right.
Because they have certain relationships. That's why, in my opinion, Trump said fake news because he knows that the media can be bought.
Right.
You know that there's relationships that are going to kill stories or that's going to promote that. So the independent journalists are so important.
I agree. And I really, really support your perspective with regard to Joanne Reed and Don Lemon and those folks. Ron Martin, I think his name is.
Roland Martin. That's another Texan from H-Town. Yeah, who started it, was trying to do the Black Star Network and just he's done so much. Yeah.
And there's just some freedom there, and it's certainly more believable, than the mass news that we have. But that's good for us. In Dallas, there's a reporter by the name of Smash the Topic, and that's what they do. They're on the scene immediately, and you get the real deal, unfiltered, and it's trustworthy for now. And so what's very interesting in this time we live in, is discerning, what is that? I'm more of I'd rather read the news than watch the news. And so ground.com, for example, is one of the resources I like to go to because it allows me to see my blind spots. If I'm just looking at too much Republican stuff, it's going to be like, hey, this is being reported on the blue side, so on and so forth. It's just good. And so I would encourage all of us for sure, and it seems like we're doing it already, but the listeners to find a trusted, known good source and then find another one.
Right. I'm old school. 3 sources, 3 things, because I think that whoever the journalist is, the reporter, whatever they are, they're going to focus on what they think is the most important. But if you pull up that same story from 2 other sources, they might have additional information or just a different spin or what is on their eye. And it helps you just have a more holistic, point of view, a reference point of what happened to inform your point of view.
In the combat world, we call that triangulation. I see you.
Okay. Well, Mr. Raymond, as we bring this interview to an end, thank you so much for coming, first of all. Secondly, we got to have you back as these things continue to unfold. Because the news is literally, I'm glued to it right now, and it's just changing every hour. So we'd love to have you back in the next week or so, 2 weeks, if you're available to come back. But one last question for you. From everything you've seen in your career, what's the biggest lesson people should take away from moments like this? Like a potential war that's about to end.
First and foremost, it's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. If you call me, I'm gonna start with yes. By the way, when it comes down to lessons learned in environments like this, it's particularly for your listeners and those who are not in uniform. Trust and know that there are folks that are part of various different levels of government, particularly various different levels of war, as I talked about before, right? Strategic, operational, and tactical, who are fully prepared to take the appropriate action. Having been on the pointy end of the spear when a event occurred, and knowing that our team had already been prepared and training for that environment, created a measure of trust and confidence for me that I live with today. And so the biggest lesson learned, again, is that we have folks that have been training and preparing for this their entire lives, and they are willing to write that blank check for an amount up to and including their life to ensure that we maintain not just a victorious posture, but the most safe posture.
Well, you sure made me feel more comfortable, because a lot of these Negroes be getting their degree from Call of Duty University and thinking they,
real though, yeah.
You just really dispelled a lot of myths and or just made us feel more comfortable about what's happening. So.
I feel a little bit more grounded, Mr. Raymond. Thank you so much. Like, okay.
Breathe on it.
I put my mind at ease immediately. So yeah.
Excellent.
So thank you for your service and for your information and for your time.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure to be here and be part of the solution.
Do you anything you want to shout out? Anything you're going to be, can we see you anywhere? Are you speaking anywhere anytime soon?
Nothing locally. I do have an invitation that's taking me over to Liverpool. So partnering with Lancaster University and John Moores University, that's coming up. So if you've got listeners in the UK and you're up in that area, first week of May is the scheduled event. Towards the end of May, I'm the speaker at Grand Prairie's Memorial Day event. So it'll be an honor to be there with those folks. But one thing I would like to leave you with, and you guys have heard it before, but it's 10 two-letter words for your listeners. 10 two-letter words that will certainly make you a better leader, but it will also make you better prepared for a time like this. And those 10 words are: if it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me means that you're not necessarily relying on somebody else. You're willing to do the work for yourself. And so I just like to lift that up and leave you with that.
That's a word. That's a message.
I'm like, mic drop. I don't have my little pen drop. Like, stay uncivilized.
Also, I just want to go ahead and throw out there, just for our vanity purposes, because since we have you at our disposal,
yes, you do.
Mr. Raymond Kemp is going to be. Y'all can come see him live at our shows whenever. We're planning 3 shows coming up. Houston for Juneteenth weekend. In July, we're going to do a show in LA, and then August, one in New York. So if anybody out there knows sponsors, we're looking for sponsors, because we got to fly Mr. Raymond out here and put him up in a 4-star hotel. 4 to 6 stars. 4 to 6 stars. Okay.
We ain't got helicopters. It ain't Liverpool, but we trying, Mr. Raymond. We
Look,
trying.
if I got to walk to y'all, I'm walking. I got tennis shoes.
Okay. Look.
I got the PT gear.
Much. Yeah, that's gonna be great. That's gonna be like, just thank you.
Thank y'all for joining us again for another Uncivil Live. You're gonna see me and Nataya again real soon. Like Friday, Saturday, right? Nataya,
yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody. Peace.
Bye. Thank you. Stay uncivilized.
Yes.